Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
Welcome to the 7220sports.com kickoff show presented by Wild Lotto and Rocky Mountain Shirtworks. I am your host, Cody Tucker, joined as always by Jared Newland. There's absolutely nothing going on around here, Jared, so I figured we could talk about your Astros are back in the playoffs for the 75th year in a row. The Phillies finally won the NL East for the first time in 13 years. My Sabres are well on their way to a Stanley Cup championship. They're 4-0 in the preseason.
That means a lot.
The Broncos finally showed some life this week. Things are good. Things are really good.
Well, didn't something just happen on Thursday that maybe we should mention?
Yeah, maybe so. It appears the Mountain West is going to live to see another day, Jared. Just right off the bat, what were your thoughts when you saw that come down, that 7 teams decided, nope, we're staying here?
It was relief that it actually was going to happen because there was a lot of worry this whole week.
Utah State really threw some worry in it.
Yeah, and you know what? I hope they just get pounded the rest of the year and next year.
I wrote about it yesterday that I think not only do you not like these teams anyway, but now there's a real rooting interest to hope they lose.
Well, and there's reports that from their AD saying that the state helped them out with their so-called exit fees and stuff like that. But I also heard from somebody who had an inside source at Utah State that one of their large donors really said, you need to do this and I'll help you out. Now, I don't know who that is.
So you worked there for 5 minutes.
It was about 5 minutes.
Yeah. What is the inner workings of that place? I'm sure a lot's changed, but
yeah, I mean that's 25 years ago. So I don't even know what it's like anymore.
Yeah. Do they have hardcore fans like that would pony up that kind of dough?
I think they do now for sure. Just because the Cache Valley itself has grown so much since I lived there. Yeah. Seriously, when I lived there, I think there was 2 bars in town. There was the White Owl downtown, and then there's another one where you had to have a membership. The White Owl was open to everybody, and then there was a couple of other places that had restaurants that you could drink at. Yeah. But now you drive in there, I mean, there's all these chain restaurants. You can have beers everywhere. Then they have a couple other sports bars. I mean, it looks like a totally different place since the last time I was there. I mean, back in the 90s. Compared to a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, and obviously they think they're going to get a piece of the Salt Lake City TV market.
That's what really upsets me about this whole thing because of the disbursement, and we can go over it here, what the UNLV and Air Force are getting. Yeah. And so San Jose, I mean, isn't that in the Bay Area? Isn't that supposed to be the big coup for them to be in the Mountain West? Yeah. And they're getting the same percentage as Wyoming and New Mexico?
And Nevada?
That just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. So, but Air Force gets their bonus plus 25% or 24.5%. And I understand the Vegas thing because they really needed both those teams to keep this thing together. But getting over twice as much as the other teams, I don't know about that.
It's tough pill to swallow for sure, but what we do know, the Mountain West is going to provide distribution payments to the remaining member schools in accordance with the bylaws of the conference, utilizing the following formulas. Air Force and UNLV, it's been widely reported that the American has flirted with Air Force. Not sure if there's been an actual offer to snag the Falcons. UNLV, of course, Pac-12 was flirting hard with them. Those two, for staying, will get 24.5%, as you said. of the exit fees. Nevada, New Mexico, San Jose State, and Wyoming, 11.5, and Hawaii, a football member only, they will get 5%. They only have 7 schools right now, 6 that are full members. Need to get that number to 8, and that's the big question coming up. We'll talk about that in a sec. I just kind of want to read a little bit of what Gloria Navarez, Mountain West Commissioner, said on Thursday. She said, "Our immediate priority was solidifying the membership of the Mountain West. Now our focus turns to our collective future on behalf of our student-athletes," she said. "The agreements announced today mark a historic moment for the Mountain West and provide much-needed stability and clarity as the world of intercollegiate athletics continues to evolve rapidly. We are excited about our future and are executing our next steps in expanding the Mountain West. We will continue to prioritize the student-athlete experience and do all we can to support our institutions as they compete at the highest levels, blah, blah, blah." So that brings up the next question, obviously. And Tom Berman will meet with the media. I believe Monday is the day we are going to meet with him. He can only say what he can say. I think he's gotten a lot of unfair criticism this week. What in the world was he supposed to do? And what in the world is he supposed to talk about? They can't show their hand, and he can't. Lawyers drive this thing. TV execs drive this thing. He can only do so much.
Well, the attorneys are the winner in all of this.
Absolutely.
Because the Pac-12 is now suing the Mountain West, and then the Mountain West is they're trying to get it thrown out. So all these attorneys are making all the money, and it's all across the board in college athletics right now. Be a great time to be a settlement lawyer, that's for sure.
Kidding.
But
what's that? $43 million? I think we discussed.
Yeah, I think so.
$43 million for poaching fees, which the Pac-12 agreed to, signed off on as part of that scheduling contract. Now they're saying no, that's not going to happen. It's unlawful and unenforceable.
And this might be some. Shouldn't say it, but the criticism towards the Mountain West and their slogan, "Ascend Together."
Yeah.
Well, it kind of seems like that Nevada, San Jose State, New Mexico, and Wyoming are the Sherpas for UNLV and Air Force.
No doubt. I'm not. Are you mad at UNLV and Air Force? I think I think the Mountain West had to do what they had to do.
Yeah, I'm not mad at them, but I just don't think getting over 50% more than the other schools is fair.
I mean, obviously, they think they don't have a TV contract yet after 2026, so obviously they're banking on that being really good. I just imagine she mentioned in here stability, and that's the key, right? And I think that's what Tom Berman, he also mentioned. I'll read a quote from him here. Stability is so important with the way things are changing. I think they're willing to make concessions like that. It's just mind-boggling because we know UNLV's been horrendous until last year.
And now all of a sudden they get this lump sum payment that they're probably going to be able to keep a Barry Odom now.
Maybe.
To where he was probably going to go P4.
Yeah. Well, and their AD came out today and said, we want to stay with the Mountain West. Obviously, we made that commitment yesterday. We will be getting, paid handsomely, but we are also still keeping our eye on moving to a Power 4
And there was, if you read a bunch of the comments with everything going on this last week, it said that UNLV was $20 million in debt.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, well, here's your lump sum.
Yep. Well, they also lost their quarterback this week.
That didn't keep any content contributors busy this week, right?
UNLV was at the center of the college football universe.
They're still talking about it.
Because Circa's owner, CEO, came out and said he would pay the $100,000 owed to Matthew Sluka.
$97,000.
Yeah, he did get the 3. I forgot, but you leave I know we're kind of bouncing all over the place here, but you leave your teammates hanging like that.
Yeah, that's a tough. He may not see the field ever again.
No. He came from Holy Cross. I mean, he used to play with Ira Santi at Holy Cross.
I mean, we'll get into Wyoming stats. And no, I don't want to bag on Evan, but he's in the 40%.
Yeah.
Matthew Sluka was 48.3%.
Yeah. He's a runner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't doing
now
anything.
He's led him to 3-0.
Yeah, no
but
doubt.
Still.
And an impressive 3-0, and I cannot imagine how you pull yourself out of that. I mean, obviously you're pissed about being burned on the 100K, but you got a 3-0 team, man. You guys are tight. You're winning road games over Big 12 opponents. And you might get in the college football playoff.
What kind of advice are you getting if it's your dad? You didn't have an agent until you actually wanted to try to get the money.
Yeah.
And how do you not have a screenshot of what was so-called promised or a written agreement?
Wow. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and they lost a running back this week, too. Playing time, he said.
Well, and he was the fourth string, and he's only rushed for, 108 yards?
But it was a question I thought about posing to Jay Sawvell this week. These guys can play 4 games, and then, they can set up shop and say,
we've seen it.
Yeah.
Harrison Whaley said he's not going to play 6 games. He's going to play 4 and redshirt.
Yep.
So good for him.
Yeah, but he's staying at Wyoming that we know of for now. But these other schools, like, guys leave. Like, Jay Johnson is getting, in Wyoming's offensive coordinator, he's getting a ton of heat right now. Rightfully so in so many ways. But when people bring up how he did at Michigan State last year, that is so unfair after what Mel Tucker did. And then they lost like 30 guys.
What did Mel do? Never mind.
Say that on the radio. But they lost like 30 guys after game 4. Guys were just like, nope, there is no future here. I'm out. So Wyoming, as far as we know, nobody's doing that aside from Harrison Whaley, which was kind of cool to hear that explanation from Coach. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but, Harrison Whaley is not ready to play. And why would he want to come burn his last season playing in 6 games when he could get healthy? He can play in 4 and 5 if they were able to get into a bowl game. He could play in 5 games this year.
And we've mentioned the last couple of weeks, when we see him standing on the sideline still in a straight leg brace,
yes,
he's not ready to play.
No, and they don't need to force it.
No.
They don't need to force it. Anyway, back to the realignment thing a little bit. Quote here from Tom Berman. I feel very good about where we landed in these fluid times related to conference realignment. The Mountain West Conference will move forward to be at the NCAA requirement of 8 full members. We will work with Mountain West leadership to actively add new members, but at this time we cannot comment on the matter of specific institution for expansion. As one of the founding members of the Mountain West Conference, both the league and the University of Wyoming put great emphasis on the experience for our student athletes. We're excited to continue our working relationship, yada, yada. So that leaves the question, who are those people? We saw Brett McMurphy last night, kind of a little mini bombshell. 2 MAC teams. The MAC hasn't even been talked about. Now all of a sudden Wyoming or the Mountain West is maybe targeting Northern Illinois and Toledo.
But did we not bring up the MAC a couple of weeks ago saying, why aren't they ever mentioned in any of this?
Well, I think we were thinking because maybe Wyoming might need to call the MAC and say, can we come play with you guys, please?
But here we go. So
I love, though, how Wyoming fans, most of the Wyoming fans I'm seeing on social media are like, don't go raid the MAC because they feel bad about what just happened. And now here's the Mountain West getting ready to eat someone else.
But there's still plenty of teams in the MAC. They're fine. But somebody did come out and said, it'd give the Mountain West a central time zone, 2 schools. Well, Toledo's actually Eastern time.
Yeah, it's right south of Detroit.
Yeah.
So you'd get the Detroit market. And I know you can't
Columbus.
See my air quotes out there. And the Chicago market for Northern Illinois. 2 respectable schools. Hey, Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame earlier this year. Wyoming played Northern Illinois, and Harrison Whaley, his former school. Jay Sawvell used to coach there.
Well, and then people are also saying, well, why not take them for all their sports? Well, it just doesn't make sense for the basketballs, the volleyballs, the soccers to travel that far.
I have a serious question for you right now, and I posed it to a couple people. Have you ever watched a MAC basketball game in your entire life?
When I was betting, yes.
It's always the bettors that say that.
You got to take the over in the MAC.
I can tell you right now, I have never watched a MAC basketball game. I've been in Western Michigan's gym, and it is just, it's horrible. It's putrid stuff. So I can't think of a time when, they're a one-bid league.
No offense,
year.
Chris McMillan.
Yeah. Chris McMillan, who didn't sign a contract with Wyoming this year for some reason. Anyway, yeah, so also we talk about teams. I know we talked before we came on the air. Texas State is a very attractive option. Remember, folks, winning isn't important anymore. So they've had like 9 consecutive losing seasons until last year. But I've been down there for a Wyoming game. I've covered a Wyoming game there. Awesome little facility, great town. It's right next to Austin. It's beautiful. It's a party school from hell. Their stadium's cool.
Central Texas recruiting.
Yes, absolutely.
That is the key.
The TV market.
Oh, yeah. You get San Antonio and Austin TV markets. Yeah. It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to get that one. Also, I think, we've talked about it. UTEP doesn't really do a lot as far as maybe TV and, travel-wise and recruiting, certainly not. But, I think I get all nostalgic and think about the minors, playing in Laramie, and Wyoming, winning the regular season title in the WAC in the late 80s, beating UTEP twice, and Paul Roach getting carried off in the Sun Bowl, and Wyoming winning a couple of Sun Bowls. So I personally would love to see UTEP. I wish Dana Dimmel was still there. Then I would really love UTEP. But New Mexico State, I'm not seeing. I wonder if New Mexico is saying no. We don't want New Mexico State. Don't do it.
A lot of in-state schools, they don't want to be in the same league because of the recruiting, and especially if one's truly the big brother and the other one's the little brother type of a deal. UNLV and Nevada, for the most part, is pretty even.
Yeah.
I mean, since Tarkanian left, for the most part, they're probably even.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And so that's probably not that big of a deal, and that's why you're not seeing a lot of talk about the Montana or Montana State or North Dakota State or North Dakota, because those states really don't want to split those schools up. They want to keep them at the same levels for that rivalry.
And they have a nice thing going. That's all they've ever known is we can make the playoffs and we can really maybe win a national title.
And you have to go from 63 to 85 scholarships like overnight. Mm-hmm. I know you get 2 years. Most likely, you're going to have to enhance your stadiums.
It's $5 million just to
enter them.
Just to enter now.
Yep.
Which is up from like $500,000.
Yep. And that was like overnight. Yeah. The entrance fee was.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that people don't take into consideration when they're saying, well, let's just go get these schools. Well, there's that's a big process.
Huge. And
it's a lot to burden to put on that particular institution and that state as well.
Yeah. And I think North Dakota State probably would have done it by now if they wanted to do it.
They have good things going.
They love being a giant killer. They love being the beast of the FCS, which is great. I get a lot of guff online and stuff because the FCS talk enrages me. And that is literally nothing against the FCS. They have a really nice thing going, but if you go down to that, it doesn't feel as good. It's not like, oh, cool, now Wyoming could win a national championship. It's a real loser's mentality. It makes me sick. And I'm not calling FCS teams losers, but it makes me sick that people would be like, yeah, it's time. It's time to drop. No, it's not. You guys don't even think about the ramifications of that at all. It's just use your brain.
You got that 28,000-seat stadium that would need to be cut in half pretty much.
I know. I looked at UNC, 8,000 seats in Greeley. At UNC and Wyoming, and the other thing that some Wyoming fans don't think through is they need to recruit more Wyoming guys. Well, you'd get your wish there too. Starting quarterback would be from Matitsi, and Wyoming would get worked. The recruiting would look different. The coaching would look different. The money would look different. You would never be able to see a game on TV. It would be a dumpster fire. And is it easy to get to Bozeman? I don't go to Montana. Is it easy to get to Bozeman or Missoula?
It's an 8-hour drive from here.
Yeah, it doesn't look easy to me.
It's interstate, but it's Bozeman's 8, and I think Missoula is probably 12.
Well, and you grew up right next to South Dakota. Brookings, South Dakota. Where the hell is Brookings, South Dakota? I have no clue.
Antarctica. I mean, it is northeast South Dakota, and it is cold as hell.
Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. There's nothing about that appeals to me.
Now, if it was South Dakota or North Dakota State, those three schools, they all play in domes. That's a little different.
Yeah.
But Bozeman in November, Missoula in November, and Brookings, no thank you. It's colder than Laramie, you guys.
Yeah. Well, and you have to get up to 16 sanctioned teams, which I haven't done the homework on because I don't need to do the homework because it ain't happening.
Let's move on to is there a football game today?
That FCS stuff gets me fired up. Yes, there is a football game today. The Wyoming Cowboys will take on the Air Force Falcons tonight. Wow. We mentioned that 17 and a half minutes into the first show.
Don't really need to go backwards and talk about a game. Oh, we do?
Yes, we do.
Dang it.
Kickoff tonight, 6 p.m. The game is on CBS Sports Network. Happy homecoming. This is the 62nd meeting between the Cowboys and Falcons. Air Force right now a 3.5-point favorite. This over-under, you're the better in this group here, Jared. 34.5. Have you ever seen a number that low?
Well, Iowa all last year was hovering around that number. A Wyoming game, I'm guessing the Dimmel years, Wyoming Air Force was,
those were tight.
Those betting lines had to be right around this same thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as easy to access those betting lines as today. You open your phone up and there's 35 messages saying, here's the line for tonight's game, you know. So I think it's going to go under.
I do too.
Yeah. Well, I saw your prediction. We'll talk about that at the end of the show, but that could happen, though. That seriously could happen.
Well, I think back to a game, it would have been probably 97 down at Air Force. It was a 10-3 type situation. Jay Stoner threw a pick at the goal line when Wyoming was going in there late in the fourth, and they pick-sixed him and won that game. There's been a lot of tight games in this, and I will call it a rivalry. That was going to be my question to you. I think we ask that every single time we play Air Force. Why we're asking it, it's not like we're trying to speak it into existence. This is a rivalry. I don't care if Troy Calhoun wants to call it a rivalry or not. And I've seen some Wyoming fans this week go, no, CSU is the rival. And it's like, is there a limit on rivals? Air Force is a rival. And I tell you what, every player I talked to last Monday, just like it's a tradition, they all hate Air Force, all of them.
All the former players, they say that they dislike Air Force more than they do CSU as far as playing them.
Yes.
Of course they want to win that bronze boot. There's no getting around that.
Yeah.
But as far as how, and I'm going to call them dirty. Yeah. How Air Force plays the football game is dirty.
Yeah.
And it's not fun for the Cowboys, especially those linemen. Mm-hmm. And I know they've changed a few rules here and there on those cut blocks and that kind of stuff. It still is painful, and it's just not fun to play, especially on defense, to play that offense.
No, absolutely not. And the discipline, the eye discipline especially, which we'll get into after the break, but some youngsters going to be playing for that Wyoming defense tonight. Talked to Jeff Phelps, the defensive line coach, this week about that very thing. You know, what is it? I said, I hate to bring this up, but I noticed in your coaching career you've coached against Army, twice against Navy, once against Air Force. You're 0-4. Not exactly blown out, but he's like, dude, when you have to teach a team that doesn't see that offense, it is brutal. And he goes, the worst part is you're sitting there for an hour and you still don't have the ball back.
Yeah.
They're on a 15-play drive that literally in real time is like an hour.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because 2 years ago, Wyoming Air Forced.
Sure did.
That first drive, I know they only got a field goal out of it, but it took 7.5 minutes off the clock.
Yes, it did.
And it was like...
And produced points.
Yes. And it was one of those things like, all right, Wyoming.
Yeah. They should, in fact, I thought about that this week. They should absolutely mimic that exact game plan. It was short passes to the outside. Air Force's corners were playing 10 yards off, just 7-yard out, 8-yard out, 6-yard out. Next thing you know, they're just marching down the field slowly and methodically. They get a field goal. Next thing you know, like you said, 7.5 minutes off.
And then
the
you lull you bring those cornerbacks up, you go over the top with a speedster.
Just like they do.
Or there's going to be a trap or a draw open.
Yep. Just like Air Force does. Yeah. No, this has been a really fun series. Maddening as hell. The maddening part is they get it to 3rd and short. They get it to 4th and short. They're going every time, no matter what. And it just back-breaking. Just ugh.
Last year's game is still one of the most frustrating Wyoming Air Force games that I can remember.
Especially when the Pokes jump out to a 14-0 lead right off the bat. That's one where you're
was
easy.
Going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just... Because you think Air Force can't come back. They are not a comeback kind of team, but they were last year, and the Cowboys couldn't do anything about it. On the other side of the break, we will unfortunately talk a little bit about that North Texas game, because some stuff came out of that from the coach's mouth that's pretty interesting, that we're hoping to see the change this week and see it put in motion. The Cowboys do have a bye week after this, too, which couldn't come at a better time. We'll talk about the injuries. We'll talk about the matchup tonight between the Wyoming Cowboys and the Air Force Falcons. This is the 62nd meeting. Tell me this isn't a rival. Air Force 31 wins, 27 losses, 3 ties. It's about as close as you can get. It's close almost every single year. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Welcome back to the 7220sports.com kickoff show, presented in part by Wyo Lotto. When the Pokes win, you win too. Learn more at wyolotto.com. It was a muggy Saturday night in Denton, Texas, Jared Newland, and the Cowboys once again got they were close in the second quarter to making this a game. TK King returns a kick 103 yards for a touchdown. Cowboys are right in it, down by 7. Then, with less than a minute to go, they allow North Texas to go down the field and kick a field goal at the horn from 45 out to take a 10-point lead, which completely changed the complexion of the whole game, took the air right out of the balloon right before half, and North Texas put their foot on the Cowboys' throat in the second half and rolled to a 44-17 victory, put up 534 yards of total offense, 216 of those on the ground. Chandler Morris was really good, really elusive, could throw the ball, could make plays with his feet. That is a really good offense. The scariest part about this one, in my opinion, Jared, is that defense was ranked damn near dead last. They were also playing without their leading cornerback, and Wyoming's offense did diddly-poo.
And about 5 more defensive players went down during the game that didn't return, and Wyoming still couldn't move the ball. And their running back was their 4th-string running back that went over 100 yards.
Yep, he was. Carved
up the Cowboy defense.
Painful game. Do you agree with me that was the turning point of the game there in the second quarter?
Yeah, it's similar to what happened with the BYU game.
Yep.
Knowing that they're going to get the ball first in the second half, you cannot allow them to score. Let that defense feel really good about themselves.
Yep.
And they come out, they obviously get the points before the half, and then they come out and do it again. And then, it's the previous week against BYU. The second half opening kickoff just takes all the air out of the sails.
Another really bizarre stat that is following this Wyoming football team. They are really good on third down. They are horrendous on fourth down. Opponents are 10 of 12. North Texas was 4 of 4 in this game. They, on a 4th and 4 from the 9-yard line in that all-important time we're talking about in the second quarter, Sebastian Harsh jumps offside on a 4th and 4, gives them an automatic first down instead of getting off the field there, possibly getting out with no points given up. And instead, he jumps offside. They find the end zone one play later. And on that 45-yard, their wide receiver, Sheffield, has 43 yards worth of catches on that drive with less than a minute to go to get into field goal range. Blown assignment, blown coverage on that because Wyoming's secondary is so depleted right now that they had they had Jones Thomas in there, a redshirt freshman from Fort Collins. He was in on that play, blew the coverage because he doesn't know what he's doing. That's the first time he's played in a game. So they give up that 45-yard field goal, game over. In my opinion, game over right then and there. It was hotter than hell. It was muggy. The Cowboys were doing nothing once again. They had one impressive drive, just like BYU. They hit Sam Scott. Sabota hit Sam Scott over the middle, 41-yard touchdown. It was beautiful. He missed it on the drive prior.
Yep.
Missed the exact same play to DJ Jones. But they connect on it. You're feeling really good. They let them come down and score. TK King runs back a kick, 103 yards. You're like, all right, they dodged that first bullet and the offside jump and all that, but then they gave up the field goal. Killed them.
3 positives that I can see come out of that game is, now will it happen tonight? We don't know. Sam Scott should be the number 1 running back.
100%.
He sees the holes differently than the other 2 guys.
Doesn't dance.
And he's trusting that by the time he gets there, they're going to open. I believe that DJ and Jamari, they don't trust that the hole's going to be there, so they're not going.
Yep.
But the last second, they open up for Sam, and he puts his head down, and he's always falling forward.
Always.
And so that's one. John Michael Gillenborg, he's back.
Yeah, 5 catches. He probably scores on that. His long catch, his 31-yarder.
Yep.
He probably scores right there on the Cowboys' opening drive. But he just that right ankle still is just not there.
And you could tell that he didn't want to get tackled by somebody tripping him up because that would have maybe irritated something.
Yeah.
So that's why he just ran out of bounds and trotted.
Yeah. Well, too, you had to like the opening. They got a field goal out of it, but the opening drive. They came out and scored some points.
Yep.
And you thought, all right, this defense is supposed to be terrible. Wyoming's exposing some stuff early. This is good news. And then it just, again, was not consistent at all.
And the third, obviously, TK King.
Yep.
I mean, he's shows that he's got some burners. He can make, because that was supposed to be a return to the right. He bounced it back to the left and just outran everybody.
Man, when he hit about North Texas 30, he dusted. It looked like a
Did it ever come out how fast he actually was running?
I never heard, no. I never heard.
Maybe you could ask one of the strength coaches.
It had to be 23 miles per hour.
You would think,
He was flying. Yeah. It's funny, you just mentioned all that. My first thing on my list here, get the ball to TK, get the ball to J-Mike, get the ball to Sam Scott.
Why hasn't Chris Durr been in more of the action? Does he not know enough of the offense?
I don't know, because he's one of those smart kids that really picked up, and he's a film junkie and all that good stuff.
And he's a burner.
All about it, and he can run. I don't know. There's been no consistency in the passing game in general.
But they said they want to get the ball in the top 10 playmakers' hands. He's got to be in the top 10.
Oh, yeah, 100%. We also found that, and that's where, fans, once again, these Wyoming coaches have this horrible problem with trigger words like re-engineer. Then you hear about it for a year and they're like, that's re-engineered. Jay Sawville mentioned the word redefine numerous times after that game in Denton. And, basically he wasn't going to give us his game plan on Monday during his press conference, of course. But really, if you want to put it simplistically, what redefine means is exactly what you just said. Get the ball to TK, J. Mike, Scott. That's what redefining means on offense. However, his main concern, and I don't think it's just because he's a defensive coordinator, is that side of the ball. The defense has not been good at all. I even asked this week, I didn't know if it was a fair question, and I posed it that way. Jordan Bertinoli has 8 tackles. He wasn't on the stat sheet at all against the Mean Green. Is he just doing the dirty work that doesn't show up on the stat sheet? His coaches say yes. We haven't heard his name at all. Him, Florentine, Drake, none of those defensive tackles. We have not heard their name. Both Jaden Williams haven't heard their names at all. That's going to change tonight because of the way Air Force runs, but those guys need to do more. And they have 3 sacks. Wyoming has 3 sacks in 4 games. And I know Braden Siders was out. He's hurt. Devon Harris is hurt. Anytime they get pressure, like for instance, last week, I think it was Evan Eller. He gets in on the quarterback and doesn't sack him. And the quarterback just moves right out of the way and goes and runs. They got to get to the quarterback.
Is some of this scheme, though, to where Aaron Bowl is calling stunts and twists that are just not at opportune times, that they're running, they're doing these against where the run's going or where the quarterback's going to move up in the pocket? Or, Jay's talked about how some of these, defensive plays last year happened at opportune times.
Yeah.
And this year, they're just not happening.
Not happening. Yep. And that was the sentiment. I talked to Aaron Bull for about 14 minutes on Monday. We had a long talk. Basically, he just said, Aaron, what the hell is going on here? And that's what he said. They're not making plays. And nobody is. Aside from Rook Brown getting a pick and almost getting another one against BYU, they haven't been close.
In his first play in against North Texas, he was all over it.
Yep.
And he lit that kid up on the sideline.
Yep.
He was ready to roll. And then they almost went away from him the rest of the game. And picked on
They picked on Malik Singleton a lot, who was making his first career start. They picked on him, and then when Jones Thomas was forced to come in, this is as good a time as any to talk about these injuries, Jared. It's truly incredible. Jay Sawville said that he hasn't heard about a guy breaking 2 thumbs in his life aside from maybe a mafia hit. Wyatt Eckler, 2 broken thumbs. Andrew Johnson, who will play this week, broken right thumb. Caleb Driscoll, broken thumb. The list goes on, but defensively, I am hearing that Isaac White could play in this game. He suffered a foot injury in that game in North Texas. Braden Siders didn't play in concussion protocol. Eckler is definitely out. Don't know about Siders. The good news is, though, if you're going to have a bunch of injuries in your secondary, quote unquote, this is the week you want to do it because Air Force isn't going to spread you out. However, you have a bunch of young kids back there who need that eye discipline we were talking about.
You still need your safeties in a game like this.
Yes, you do. And if you fall asleep and get lulled to sleep like a Keone Parks who doesn't have very much experience, he could get lulled to sleep.
Now, does Wyoming come out in a different defense? Because North Texas did, and it really threw Wyoming for a loop.
It was odd to me, though. Nobody brought that up from Wyoming. Nobody said a word about them going from a 3-3-5 to a 4-3.
Did they know?
Great question. I brought it up. on Monday like 3 times to 3 different people, and they were just like, They kind of blew it off, but it looked to do wonders for them. The other thing, too, that you always have to put into this game, I don't know who the scout quarterback is this week. I would assume it's Jaden Clemens. I don't know. He's just ran it so many times. I think it could be him, but they have worked on Air Force since spring ball. And as we all know, they put the score up in War Memorial Stadium of last year's game because that's the game that derailed them last year. They win that game, they're knocking on the door of the top 25, and they're undefeated in conference play. And, oh, by the way, that night when I'm driving home from Colorado Springs, what am I listening to on the radio? CSU coming back to beat Boise State on a Hail Mary.
Yep.
Could you imagine how good Wyoming fans are feeling if Wyoming beats Air Force down there and then that happens? Instead, it was the polar opposite, and it was a nightmare, and Wyoming just could not win on the road. So these youngsters, what I'm getting at is these youngsters on the back end, they have worked against this Air Force offense. They have been preparing for it since the spring. And in fact, CBS Sports reached out to us here at Town Square Media and asked our boss if they could use the picture I took of the scoreboard inside War Memorial with last year's score on it. So it's a big deal, and it's something that I think could really help this young team. But right now, this defense is on the struggle bus. 12 North Texas drives last week, 5 touchdowns, 3 field goals, just 4 punts. Cowboys, once again, 4 of 14 on third down. They held North Texas too, but they're 4 of 4 on fourth. The other huge problem here, Jared, outscored 52-0 in the third quarter. It just, and we ask it every week, what the hell are you doing in the locker room? What is going on? Why are you not doing this? And something that I was actually stoked that Jay Savell brought it up. I wrote a story about it on the website this week. He said, we are getting buried in the middle 8. I brought up the middle 8 to Craig Bull, and he looked at me like I just took a dump on the floor. He is embracing it and saying, yeah, it's not good enough. They're 27. They've been outscored 27-7 in the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. The only 7 is TK King's return. The offense hasn't done squat in that time frame. And if you break it out, I wrote it down here somewhere. If you break it down to the middle 8, not the middle, or the middle 10, not the middle 8, they have been outscored 51-21 in that time frame.
And especially if you know that you're getting the ball first in the second half, put that last drive of the first half, get points, or vice versa, hold them.
Yeah.
You have to do that. And it's all about letting that defense or offense rest a little bit more because you get the halftime break or you go out on a roll. It's one or the other. But neither side is getting it done in this middle 8, and something's got to change.
Yeah. I wrote about it this week, Jared. I'm curious. I got a lot of feedback on this. I wrote a column saying this team has zero identity right now. In an attempt to find balance, which is the one thing, in my opinion, that was holding this program back under Craig Bull, they have somehow managed to forget how to run the ball and forget how to play defense. Oh, and they still are carrying on the tradition of not being able to throw as well. There's no identity. I brought up the Cowboy Tough thing. What is Cowboy Tough about giving up 9 sacks? What is Cowboy Tough about allowing 36 points per game? What is Cowboy Tough about averaging 2.4 yards per rush? 1 pick. The list goes on. Showing
enthusiasm on the sideline. Showing any sort of fire.
I've seen John Michael Gillenborg get pissed on the sideline. Other than that, guys are down in the dumps and stuff, but who is over there yelling at him? And I wrote about it in my column, and I'm not talking yelling, but just like we've seen Tom Brady how many times just always like, come on, telling people like, we got to get it going here. We got to do this. We got to do that. I'm not seeing that.
I think Eckler and Brown need to call a players-only meeting, in my opinion, because those two and Gillenborg, those guys are the ones that are showing any sort of fire on the field or off the field.
Yeah, and I wrote about it this week that how does, your captains, which your captains doesn't mean they're your best leaders. They're voted on by their peers. How is Evan Svoboda going to yell at his receivers when he's completing 44% of his passes? How is Fia going to yell at Caden Barnett for all of his holding calls when he can't get a snap into Evan's hands?
And I don't think those guys would care if somebody else stepped up and had some words.
He was never a captain, and I know personally this burned his ass. This team misses Frank Crum a lot. That offensive line misses Frank Crum a lot. He may not have had a captaincy on his chest. he was a captain. He was a difference maker. And they're missing that right now. They can tell me till they're blue in the face that everything's all good and everything. It's clear that is not the case. And, of course, like Jay Savell answered my question, he took it the wrong way. He was like, how are we supposed to show enthusiasm when we're losing by 30? And I'm like, I'm not even seeing a helmet thrown. I'm not seeing anybody getting pissed.
And he himself, he walks out on an island.
Yeah.
He is away from everybody on the sideline.
Yeah. And I've heard so many complaints about him looking that way. We're not done talking about injuries, however. Offensively, Caleb Driscoll, fullback, he's out for, they don't know how long he's out. He's got a broken thumb, hand injury, whatever it is. Caleb Cooley, ankle, he's got an ankle. He's still out. DeWine McNeely, God bless him. 2 carries this year. His first carry against BYU, he dislocates his thumb. His first and only carry against North Texas, or against BYU, knee injury. The week before against Idaho, he had the thumb. He's done for the year. Once again, he missed all last year with an ACL. This is not an ACL, but it's something that Jay Savell said is going to require surgery, and it's going to be about a 4-month process. He is planning to come back. Luke Sandy and Nate Geiger, both offensive linemen, would have added really nice depth. Geiger, of course, was a starter at the beginning of the year. Those two are also on the shelf with knee injuries. So the injuries are unbelievable. It's tough sledding right now, but the redefine thing is so big. This is a big opportunity, too, for guys like Shea Suianoa. The middle linebacker traditionally at Wyoming, it leads the way in this game. I wrote about it this week 2 years ago, that game against Air Force that you mentioned before. Easton Gibbs lost 12 pounds overnight and had a fever of 104, and Reed Sun had to step in and start that game for him. And those guys combined for, I want to say, 11, 12 tackles, and Air Force only ran 50 plays. So it's a big deal for those guys. It's also a huge game, of course, for Dante Drake, Ben Florentine, Jordan Bertinoli, the Williams guys. Big week. Air Force, this isn't your daddy's Air Force team, Jared. They averaged 10.3 points per game, 217 yards of total offense. They're only rushing for 167 yards. And in that 2022 game, I know that it was only 3 games in, they were rushing for 508 yards per game at that time.
Polk's defense just stoned them.
Yes, they did. But now this Air Force team, John Busha, their quarterback, 13 of 39. I cannot believe he's already thrown 39 passes. That's insane. 125 yards, 2 picks.
Trying to get something going.
That's why
they're throwing so many balls.
They've been behind. But the more telling stat is their quarterback has 98 rushing yards. That's not happening at Air Force. That doesn't get it done.
Usually 4 games in, they are, well, I guess there's 3 games, right?
Yeah, 3. Yep.
But usually they're averaging 100 yards a game.
Easy, yeah. Cade Harris, a wide receiver, is now converted to running back for them. 21 rushes, 132 yards, and 3 touchdowns. They have all, Air Force got picked, I want to say, 3rd in the Mountain West in the preseason. I thought that was crazy then. It's crazy now. Because they lost so much. They've lost a ton. And I know that with Air Force, you can get fooled into thinking it's plug and play. We saw last year. When their backup had to come in last year, he fumbled the ball twice, and they looked like crap.
Yep.
That kid made a big difference, a really big difference. So now they've had 24 guys who have had their first start in these first 3 games, their first collegiate start ever in these games. Their offensive line's entirely new, which that's a very important element to Air Force's offense. The quarterback's new. 3 new running backs, and their defense, like I said, their top 6 tacklers, all brand new. The linebackers are the top 3 leading tacklers. They're the ones getting the work done. Other than that, they're not getting turnovers. They're not stopping anybody. Their defense has been okay so far, but they're not stopping anybody, and they're on the field a lot, which is not something Air Force defenses are used to.
Well, let's just hope that Jay Savell's not the one wearing the clown's nose after the next game. It's definitely Calhoun.
I don't feel bad telling you right now, Jared. I think the Cowboys win this one. I think they have to. I think it's a must-win. I feel it. I feel like the Cowboys are going to win this, and I know we're kind of jumping ahead here with a prediction, but I think they have a great time for a bye week next week. They need to win today, get healthy next week, and then they have a very beatable San Diego State team coming to town. You lose this one, though, especially a blowout, it's officially time to mash that panic button, and wholesale changes are needed, in my opinion. Usually that's jumping to conclusions and putting the cart before the horse. And, what did Craig like to say? Throwing the baby out with the bathwater, all that. It's time the baby's got to go. If they get blown out by this Air Force team, especially, it's...
Because when you look at that schedule, there's some teams that are a lot better than we had anticipated.
Yes.
Especially earlier in the year. New Mexico's a lot better.
Yep.
And it's going to be a tough game down there.
Yep.
San Jose State's a hell of a lot better than people thought.
Yes, they are. Yeah, and these teams they've played are a lot better. North Texas, man, if they have a defense, they're good.
The 4 teams the Pokes have lost to, correct me if I'm wrong, they're 13-3.
Air Force has lost 1 game.
No.
Or not Air Force. Arizona State's lost 1 game.
BYU's undefeated. North Texas has lost
1 game.
1 game. And Idaho has lost 1 game.
Yep.
Yeah, they're 13-3, folks.
Yeah. No, it's good. I just know that that's not what fans want to hear. If they don't want to hear about injuries, they don't want to hear about how good these teams are. And I get it because the optics are horrible. Wyoming has not looked good. If these have been competitive games, then that's when you go, okay, yeah, I mean, they're playing really good teams. They needed to win that game in North Texas. But now it's conference. This is what matters. Speaking of conference, you want to go through some games real quick? We got a couple minutes left.
Yeah, earlier this afternoon, Fresno was at UNLV without their starting quarterback. San Diego State at Central Michigan, which is kind of an odd game for San Diego State to go all the way out there.
Go Chips.
New Mexico at New Mexico State down in Las Cruces, kicking off the same time the Pokes do tonight. And then a top 25 showdown tonight. Washington State undefeated 4-0 at number 25 Boise State. Broncos are a 7-point favorite in that game, which is really weird other than the fact that their record as a top 25 team in the last 15 years is something. I want to say they're like 15-1.
Wow.
Or something crazy.
I wish there was a way both of those teams could lose. Petty, yeah, you bet. I'm feeling really petty of late. And I hope I'm even pulling for the bye week this week against Utah State and Colorado State and Oregon State. Boy, their fans are something, boy. Listening to this victory lap was loud and obnoxious, and now it's just quiet and pessimistic, and I love it.
And then, of course, the Pokes tonight. Air Force, a 3.5-point favorite after it opened up. They were a 2.5-point favorite, and it's still going in their favor, which is weird. And we already talked about the over-under at 34.5. Folks, Pokes money line and take the under.
What are you thinking, Jared?
17-13 Wyoming.
What did I say? 6-3.
Love it. I actually love that.
6-3 Wyoming.
And who did? I mean, I know everybody wants to go to a football game and watch offense, but in this particular game, getting Air Force off the field in a 3-and-out situation, a 4-and-out, a 5-and-out is so gratifying.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
It just makes you feel so good.
Watching their punter come on and actually punt it is the greatest feeling in the world.
Unless they're inside their own 30, they will go for it on every 4th down because of Wyoming's woes against 4th down conversions.
No question about it. Cowboys win this one, and do I dare say, John Hoyland, walk off. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen tonight. 6-3.
Bring back the red shoe.
This has been the 7220sports.com kickoff show presented by Wild Lotto and Rocky Mountain Shirtworks. Thank you for joining us. For Jared Newland, I'm Cody Tucker. Stay tuned for Wyoming football next, right here on KOWB.
Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.